The specter of nuclear war, once a distant nightmare, has re-emerged as a chilling possibility in the 21st century. The world, which once breathed a sigh of relief at the end of the Cold War, now finds itself on edge once more. The threat of nuclear conflict is no longer confined to history books or the realm of speculative fiction. It is a stark reality that we must confront. Global tensions are running high, fueled by complex geopolitical rivalries and a resurgence of nationalistic fervor. Nations are increasingly adopting aggressive postures, and the rhetoric of war is becoming alarmingly commonplace. The delicate balance of power that has maintained a fragile peace for decades is now under severe strain. Amidst this volatile landscape, one voice rises above the din, urging the world to recognize the imminent danger we face. This voice calls for a reevaluation of our current trajectory and a commitment to diplomacy and dialogue over confrontation and conflict. Jeffrey Sachs, a renowned economist and global development expert, argues that the United States, through its foreign policy, is pushing the world closer to the brink of nuclear annihilation. His critique is not just a condemnation, but a call to action, urging policymakers to consider the long-term consequences of their decisions. Sachs's warnings, rooted in his deep understanding of history, economics, and international relations, cannot be easily dismissed. His insights draw from a wealth of knowledge and experience, making his arguments both compelling and urgent. He highlights the interconnectedness of global issues and the need for a holistic approach to solving them. As the world grapples with the very real possibility of a nuclear catastrophe, it is imperative to examine Sachs's arguments and consider their implications for the future of humanity. The potential for disaster is not just theoretical, it is a tangible threat that requires immediate and sustained attention. The stakes have never been higher, and the time for complacency has long since passed. We are at a critical juncture where the decisions we make today will have far-reaching consequences. The urgency of the situation cannot be overstated, and it demands a proactive and informed response from all sectors of society. The world is on a razor's edge, and the choices we make today will determine the fate of generations to come. It is a precarious position, one that requires careful navigation and a commitment to peace and stability. The metaphor of a tightrope walker captures the delicate balance we must maintain to avoid catastrophe. The urgency of the situation demands our attention, and Sachs's analysis provides a sobering assessment of the path we are on. His work serves as a wake-up call, urging us to reconsider our priorities and to take meaningful action to avert disaster. The media's portrayal of these issues often adds to the sense of urgency, highlighting the need for informed and responsible reporting. It is a path fraught with danger, a path that could very well lead to our undoing. The imagery of a stormy sea and a ship in peril underscores the treacherous journey we are on. The abandoned city streets serve as a stark reminder of what could be lost if we fail to change course. The question is, will we heed the warnings and change course before it's too late? The crossroads sign symbolizes the critical decisions we face, while the protests for peace and the globe surrounded by national flags highlight the global nature of the challenge. It is a collective responsibility, one that requires cooperation and a shared commitment to a safer, more stable world. Jeffrey Sachs is not a man prone to hyperbole or alarmist pronouncements. His credentials speak for themselves, showcasing his extensive expertise. A world-renowned economist, Sachs has dedicated his career to tackling some of the most pressing challenges facing humanity, from poverty and inequality to climate change and sustainable development. He has served as an advisor to numerous heads of state and international organizations, including 3 United Nations Secretaries General. Sachs's work on the UN Millennium Development Goals and Sustainable Development Goals has earned him global recognition as a leading voice for a more just and equitable world. His insights into the interconnectedness of global challenges have shaped policy debates and inspired countless individuals to work towards a better future. It is this same commitment to human well-being that fuels Sachs's outspoken criticism of U.S. foreign policy. Sachs's concerns stem from his belief that the United States, through its actions on the world stage, is undermining the very foundations of global peace and security. He argues that the U.S.'s pursuit of global hegemony, its reliance on military interventionism, and its disregard for international law have created a climate of instability and mistrust that is pushing the world closer to the brink of disaster. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, a group of experts founded in 1947 in the wake of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, created the doomsday clock as a stark reminder of the existential threat posed by nuclear weapons and other global dangers. The clock, a symbolic representation of humanity's proximity to global catastrophe, has become an internationally recognized indicator of global risk and peril. Each year, the Bulletin's Science and Security Board, in consultation with the Bulletin's Board of Sponsors, which includes 11 Nobel laureates, assesses the state of global affairs and sets the clock's hands accordingly. The closer the clock is to midnight, the greater the threat to humanity's survival and future. In 2023, the doomsday clock reached an unprecedented 90 seconds to midnight, the closest it has ever been to signaling global catastrophe. This alarming development reflects the Bulletin's assessment that the world faces a confluence of existential threats, including the escalating war in Ukraine, the growing danger of nuclear war, the unchecked climate crisis, and the erosion of global norms and institutions that have long maintained peace. The clock's setting serves as a wake-up call, a stark reminder that we are living in a time of unprecedented peril and uncertainty. Section 4. A Legacy of Interventionism. Sachs argues that the current situation is not a recent development but rather the culmination of decades of misguided U.S. foreign policy. He believes that the roots of this interventionist approach can be traced back to the aftermath of World War II, when the U.S. emerged as a global superpower. The Cold War further entrenched this mindset, as the U.S. sought to counter Soviet influence around the world. He contends that every U.S. president since the end of the Cold War has left office with the world closer to nuclear war than when they took office. This pattern, according to Sachs, is a direct result of the aggressive foreign policies pursued by successive administrations, each believing that military might was the key to maintaining global dominance. This trend, Sachs argues, is rooted in the U.S.'s unwavering belief in its own exceptionalism and its right to dictate the terms of the international order. This belief has often led to a disregard for international norms and the sovereignty of other nations, as the U.S. has repeatedly acted unilaterally in its foreign interventions. From the Balkans to the Middle East, the U.S. has engaged in numerous military interventions, often with the stated goal of bringing stability and democracy to these regions. From Latin America to Africa, the U.S. has a long history of intervening in the affairs of other nations, frequently justifying these actions as necessary for the promotion of democracy or the protection of human rights. The U.S. has repeatedly intervened in the affairs of other nations, often with disastrous consequences. These interventions have not only failed to achieve their stated objectives, but have also led to significant loss of life, widespread destruction, and long-term instability in the affected regions. These interventions, frequently justified in the name of democracy promotion or humanitarian intervention, have often been criticized for their underlying motives. Critics argue that these actions are more about advancing U.S. strategic interests than genuinely helping the people in these regions. These actions have left a trail of instability, resentment, and unintended consequences in their wake. The aftermath of U.S. interventions is often marked by political chaos, economic hardship, and social unrest, which can persist for decades. Sachs points to the U.S.'s vast network of military bases around the world as evidence of its uniquely aggressive military posture. These bases serve as a constant reminder of U.S. military power and its readiness to intervene anywhere at any time. With over 750 bases in more than 80 countries, the U.S. maintains a global military presence unmatched by any other nation. This extensive network of bases allows the U.S. to project its power globally and respond quickly to any perceived threats. The U.S. maintains a global military presence unmatched by any other nation. This presence is not only a testament to its military capabilities but also a reflection of its strategic priorities and its desire to maintain global hegemony. This sprawling military footprint, Sachs argues, is not only unnecessary but also deeply destabilizing. The presence of U.S. military bases in so many countries often leads to local opposition and protests, as communities feel the impact of a foreign military presence in their daily lives. Fueling tensions and undermining global security, the U.S.'s interventionist policies and extensive military presence have created a more volatile and unpredictable world. Sachs warns that unless there is a fundamental shift in U.S. foreign policy, the cycle of intervention and instability is likely to continue. Section 5. the Tinderbox of Eastern Europe. The ongoing war in Ukraine, according to Sachs, is a prime example of the dangers of U.S. interventionism. The conflict has not only devastated the region but has also drawn in various international players, each with their own agendas and interests. The human cost has been staggering, with thousands of lives lost and millions displaced. He argues that the conflict did not begin in February 2022 with Russia's invasion, but rather in 2014 with the US-backed overthrow of the democratically elected government in Ukraine. This pivotal moment set the stage for the current crisis, creating deep-seated animosities and a fractured political landscape. This event, Sachs contends, created a power vacuum that Russia was all too willing to exploit. The subsequent years saw a steady escalation of tensions, with both sides engaging in a dangerous game of brinkmanship. The international community watched with bated breath as the situation deteriorated, fearing the outbreak of a larger conflict. Sachs further argues that the U.S.'s decision to expand NATO eastward, despite repeated warnings from Russia, was a major strategic blunder that contributed to the current crisis. The expansion was seen by Russia as a direct threat to its sphere of influence, exacerbating existing tensions and leading to a more aggressive stance from Moscow. He points out that many prominent foreign policy experts, including George Kennan, the architect of the U.S.'s Cold War containment policy, had warned that NATO expansion would be perceived as a threat by Russia and could lead to a new Cold War. Kennan's warnings were largely ignored, and the consequences of that oversight are now painfully evident. The war in Ukraine, Sachs argues, is a tragedy for all involved. The civilian population has borne the brunt of the conflict, with countless families torn apart and entire communities destroyed. The humanitarian crisis has prompted a global response, but aid efforts have often been hampered by ongoing hostilities. But it is also a cautionary tale about the dangers of U.S. hubris and the folly of its militarized approach to foreign policy. The interventionist policies that have characterized U.S. actions in the region have not only failed to bring about stability, but have also contributed to a cycle of violence and retribution. The conflict, he warns, has the potential to escalate into a wider war between NATO and Russia. The stakes are incredibly high, with both sides possessing significant military capabilities and a willingness to use them. The international community must tread carefully to avoid a catastrophic escalation, a conflict that could easily spiral out of control and lead to nuclear war. The specter of nuclear conflict looms large, reminding us of the devastating potential of modern warfare. It is a stark reminder of the need for diplomacy, restraint, and a renewed commitment to peace.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.